At 3:12 Universal Time, every telescope on Earth saw the moon disappear. It did not explode. It did not move. It simply vanished behind 47 alien warships descending from the blackness like pieces of a dead civilization. The smallest vessel was longer than 3 aircraft carriers. The largest, a brutal half-kilometer dreadnought called Eternal Dominion, unfolded gun platforms wide enough to cover entire cities. 3 troop carriers drifted beneath it, each containing enough soldiers to occupy a continent. Around them flew assault cruisers, missile frigates, atmospheric cutters, and armored command ships arranged in perfect geometric formation. Earth's orbital traffic stopped. Commercial satellites went dark. Civilian aircraft were ordered to land. For 4 minutes, the planet said nothing. Then the alien fleet broadcast a surrender demand in every major human language. The message promised continued biological existence to those who obeyed. It promised the destruction of population centers to those who resisted. It gave humanity 8 hours. Admiral Dax Var of the Voi Empire stood on the bridge of Eternal Dominion and watched Earth's night side glitter beneath him. "Primitive," he said. Sub-Commander Lita's Sun did not answer. She was studying 12 silent orbital platforms positioned around the planet. Voi intelligence had labeled them agricultural stations. Lita had read the report 6 times. The platforms had no crops, no storage chambers, no civilian docking ports. They were pointed outward. Before she could speak, Earth transmitted a reply. A human woman appeared on every screen aboard the invasion fleet. She wore a plain black uniform without medals. Her dark hair was tied back. Her face showed no anger, no panic, and no admiration for the enormous fleet surrounding her world. She looked directly into the camera. "We have heard your terms," she said. Dax smiled. The woman continued. "You have entered our defensive range." The screen went dark. For the first time in his career, Admiral Dax stopped smiling. 12 years earlier, a Voi reconnaissance probe had entered the solar system. It was supposed to drift past the outer planets, analyze mineral abundance, and report whether the third planet possessed intelligent life. Instead, it struck the atmosphere above the North Sea, lost guidance control, and fell into the path of a Norwegian fishing vessel. The captain pulled the fist-sized machine from his net, assumed it was an experimental military device, and sold it to a university laboratory for €200 and a bottle of whiskey. Earth's first captured alien technology arrived in a cardboard box that had once contained frozen seafood. Dr. Nadia Osai opened it. She was a communications physicist with a reputation for asking questions that made government officials uncomfortable. The probe was damaged, but not silent. It transmitted brief status pulses every 11 minutes. Nadia spent 6 months decoding the signals. Then she discovered the probe was not merely reporting its condition. It was listening. Every emergency frequency, military broadcast, weather satellite, navigation system, commercial transmission, and deep space signal passed through it. The probe was studying humanity. Nadia immediately understood what the object meant. Someone had found Earth, and whoever had sent the machine might already be coming. The discovery was hidden from the public. A group of scientists, military officers, engineers, diplomats, linguists, historians, and psychologists formed the Atlas Directorate. Their task was simple to describe and nearly impossible to complete. Prepare Earth for an invasion by a civilization whose technology, biology, politics, and motives were unknown. The first question was whether to build an interstellar fleet. The answer was painful. Humanity could not. Earth lacked faster-than-light drives, gravity control, effective space armor, and energy shields. It could build rockets, orbital stations, nuclear weapons, rail systems, and powerful lasers, but none of those technologies would allow a human fleet to meet an advanced armada between the stars. General Mara Holloway, commander of Atlas, rejected despair. "We do not need to meet them between the stars," she said. "They must come here." Instead of building a fleet that could chase an enemy, humanity built a system that could turn the solar system itself into a weapon. 12 orbital platforms were constructed under the public designation of agricultural research stations. They grew vegetables for the cameras. Behind the greenhouse walls were particle emitters tuned to the weaknesses Nadia's team had discovered in the alien probe. Hundreds of civilian satellites received concealed sensor packages. Communication cables beneath oceans were reinforced and linked to military command centers. Mining lasers on the moon were redesigned to target spacecraft. Automated repair vessels around Mars carried electromagnetic warheads disguised as industrial equipment. Jupiter's weather stations became tracking arrays. Every continent built underground shelters, hidden medical facilities, food reserves, and decentralized communication systems. Road tunnels were expanded. Old subway lines were connected. Power grids were divided into independent sections. Military commanders were instructed to assume that satellites, computers, radios, vehicles, aircraft, and central command posts would fail during the opening hours of an invasion. Every unit learned to fight without them. They used maps printed on paper, mechanical watches, colored lights, hand-delivered messages, methods older than electricity. Humanity spent 11 years pretending not to be afraid. Then the VOI arrived. High Speaker Vor, political representative of the Empire, expected Earth to surrender before the first landing craft entered the atmosphere. Admiral Dax expected resistance to collapse within 2 hours. Subcommander Lita expected something else. She had read Earth's history. 6,000 years of recorded war. Empires rising and falling. Cities destroyed and rebuilt. Armies defeating larger armies through terrain, deception, endurance, patience, and sacrifice. Humanity had fought across mountains, deserts, jungles, oceans, frozen plains, underground tunnels, ruined cities, and even the upper atmosphere. They had fought for food, land, faith, resources, family, revenge, freedom, and ideas. They had invented methods of war, regretted them, documented them, and taught them to the next generation. The VOI Empire had enjoyed peace among its core species for 4 centuries. The Empire considered that evidence of civilization. Lita now wondered whether peace had made them forget how unpredictable a desperate enemy could become. She approached Admiral Dax as the troop carriers moved toward Earth. "The orbital structures are not agricultural," she said. Dax did not turn. "Our intelligence division classified them. Their formation provides overlapping coverage of every approach vector. They are primitive energy stations. Their power output does not match civilian use." Dax looked at her. "You are allowing human history to frighten you. I am allowing it to inform me. You have studied them for less than 1 day. They have studied war for 60 centuries. Dax's 4 hands rested on the command rail. "They are divided into nations. They fight one another. Their military technology is inferior. Their species has no unified fleet." Lita looked down at the blue planet. "Perhaps unity is not required for preparation." The first VOI landing ships entered Earth's atmosphere above 3 cities. They expected missiles. None came. They expected fighter aircraft. None rose. They expected civilian panic. Traffic had already vanished from the roads. The streets were empty. Dax interpreted the silence as fear. Holloway interpreted it as readiness. In the underground Atlas Command Center, she watched the landing vessels descend. "Ground teams are in position," an officer said. "Orbital weapons remain cold." "Yes, General." "Fleet distance. Still outside minimum containment range." Holloway drank from a metal cup. "Let them come closer." The VOI assault began according to doctrine. Landing teams seized airports, power stations, government centers, broadcast towers, and major road junctions. For 7 minutes, the operation appeared flawless. Then a bridge collapsed beneath 2 troop transports. The explosive charges had been installed during a maintenance project 9 months earlier. A second unit entered a rail station and found every tunnel flooded with smoke. A third followed electronic signals toward a human command post and discovered only heat generators, pre-recorded radio traffic, and a warehouse filled with empty equipment cases. A VOI armored column moved through a wide avenue. The buildings appeared abandoned. They were not. Human soldiers opened fire from reinforced upper floors. The aliens returned fire. The humans withdrew before the VOI weapons could lock onto them. The attackers entered the buildings. The floors collapsed beneath their armor. When rescue teams arrived, human fighters struck from the opposite direction. Every time the VOI identified a pattern, the pattern changed. Some human units used sophisticated guided weapons. Others used traps made from industrial tools. Some fought in disciplined military formations. Others were police officers, engineers, firefighters, transport workers, hunters, farmers, and civilians trained for specific emergency roles. A 12-year-old girl approached a VOI checkpoint holding a paper note. The alien soldier's translator identified it as a request for help finding a lost animal. While the soldier read, the girl attached a magnetic signal disruptor beneath the checkpoint barrier. She walked away. For minutes later, every VOI radio in the district failed. The girl's mother met her in a tunnel below a bakery. "You were seen?" she asked. "No, you followed the route." "Yes." Her mother hugged her tightly. "You did well." The girl began to tremble only after she was safe. Above them, the VOI soldiers assumed the failure was temporary equipment interference. It was not. By nightfall, Dax had lost 41 soldiers and effectively controlled nothing beyond his landing zones. He ordered atmospheric bombardment at sunrise. Lita confronted him again. "The resistance is coordinated. It is scattered. Scattered forces can still follow a common strategy. They cannot communicate. They may not need to." Dax turned from the tactical display. "Explain." "Their units withdraw before our counterattacks. They abandon territory, then strike our supply routes. They allow us to advance into areas prepared for defense. They are not holding ground." "What are they holding?" "Time." Dax studied her. "Time for what?" Lita looked toward the 12 orbital platforms. "I do not know." The bombardment began at 6 o'clock. VOI atmospheric fighters swept across the 3 occupied cities, firing precision weapons into suspected human positions. Buildings collapsed. Roads shattered. Dust covered entire districts. There were almost no casualties. At 5:55, human fighters had disappeared underground. No central command had ordered the withdrawal. Squad leaders had intercepted enough alien communication to calculate when the attack would begin. Each unit reached the same conclusion independently. The VOI destroyed empty positions and reported success. Dax watched the recordings from orbit. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then the moon fired. A mining array built into the rim of Shackleton Crater rotated toward the invasion fleet. The beam was invisible. Eternal Dominion's sensors detected nothing until its primary drive failed. The enormous dreadnought did not explode. Its lights remained active. Life support continued operating. Weapons powered down. Engines stopped. The ship began to drift. Dax stared at the dead command displays. "What happened?" No officer answered. 11 seconds later, the first orbital platform fired. Then the second. Then the third. The attacks moved through the fleet in a carefully calculated sequence. Drive systems failed. Weapon capacitors discharged. Guidance arrays shut down. Communication nodes filled with static. Every blast was tuned to disable rather than destroy. Human engineers had spent years studying the captured probe's shielding system. They had learned which frequencies passed through VOI defenses and which components were most vulnerable. 47 warships became powerless in 40 seconds. Not one hull was breached. Not one reactor exploded. The VOI fleet remained alive. It simply could not move, fight, or flee. Then Earth attacked the troop carriers. Not with missiles. With control. The transport vessels received false navigation instructions through a channel built into their own software architecture. Their landing ramps locked. Their flight systems switched into maintenance mode. Their automated defenses identified friendly units as obstacles and refused to fire. Across the occupied cities, electromagnetic pulses passed. Through concealed infrastructure, VOI rifles stopped working. Armor froze. Vehicles died. Communication vanished. Human soldiers emerged from tunnels, basements, subway stations, drainage networks, and underground shelters. They surrounded thousands of motionless invaders. Corporal Ray Stubbs approached the nearest armored soldier and tapped the dead suit with one knuckle. The alien inside stared at him through the visor. Stubbs opened his metal flask, drank, and nodded. "You picked a difficult planet," he said. The translator inside the suit remained inactive. The alien could not understand him. Stubbs smiled anyway. On Eternal Dominion, emergency lights activated. Dax stood at the center of a bridge filled with silent officers. One communication channel remained open. A human voice entered the ship. "Admiral Dax, this is Dr. Nadia Osai of Earth." Dax turned toward the speaker. The woman spoke fluent VOI. "Your fleet is contained. Your soldiers are surrounded. Your reactors remain stable because we have chosen not to destroy them." Dax's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "For you to stop." You expect an Imperial fleet to surrender to a species without interstellar ships? Nadia paused. Your fleet is not traveling anywhere at the moment. Several human officers listening from Atlas Command struggled not to smile. Nadia continued. You have 30 minutes to accept negotiations. If you attempt to restart your weapons, we will disable your reactors. If you fire on civilians, we will remove your life support. If you cooperate, everyone aboard your vessels will live. You threaten us with death while speaking of mercy. We are explaining consequences while offering a choice. Dax looked toward Lita. She did not look surprised. You knew, he said. I suspected. You failed to convince me. I tried. High Speaker Vor entered the bridge, surrounded by political guards. This is unacceptable, he said. Destroy their cities. Our weapons are disabled, Dax replied. Order the ground forces to execute civilians. Our communications are gone. Restart them. They cannot. Vor's skin darkened with fury. He turned to Lita. You encouraged this cowardice. I encouraged caution. You have dishonored the Empire. Lita stepped closer. No. We came to steal a world that had never harmed us. We threatened billions of civilians. We assumed weakness because they did not possess our engines. The dishonor began before we left home. Vor raised one arm. His guard moved toward her. The bridge doors opened. VOI crew members stood in the corridor. Engineers, navigators, medical officers, technicians. They had heard the human transmission. They knew Earth could destroy them. They also knew Earth had chosen not to. The guard stopped. For the first time, High Speaker Vor realized that authority depended on obedience. And obedience weakened quickly when death seemed unnecessary. Dax looked at the clock. 22 minutes remained. Open the docking bay, he ordered. A human shuttle approached Eternal Dominion. It was embarrassingly small compared with the Dreadnought. Its outer hull carried impact marks, mismatched panels, and a repaired antenna secured with visible brackets. The vessel had been built for transport between Earth and Mars, not for entering alien warships. General Mara Holloway traveled aboard it alone. Dax met her at the docking port. He expected armor. She wore the same simple black uniform from the earlier transmission. No weapon was visible. No guards followed her. You came alone, he said. So did you. This is my ship. It is currently parked above my planet. Dax's translator hesitated before deciding the sentence was not technically an insult. Holloway handed him a data tablet. These are Earth's terms. Dax, read them. Then read them again. The invasion fleet would be repaired sufficiently to return home. All surviving VOI soldiers would be released. No executions. No prisoners. No demand for resources. No occupation of VOI territory. Earth required only 4 conditions. The VOI Empire would recognize Earth as sovereign. The complete censor record of the invasion would be distributed through every diplomatic network available to the Empire. The VOI would not enter the solar system again without permission. And all species forced into VOI military service would be offered the right to leave. Dax stopped reading. The final condition is an internal matter. No, Holloway said. It became our concern when those soldiers were used against us. They served the Empire. Did they choose to? Dax did not answer. Holloway studied him. We intercepted your personnel records. Almost 1/3 of your ground troops come from conquered worlds. They are citizens. They are conscripts. They receive food, shelter, and status. So do prisoners. Dax looked toward the viewport. Several of his cruisers drifted above Earth, powerless but intact. Why spare us? He asked. Because we wanted to stop the invasion, not become the people conducting one. You could destroy the Empire's finest fleet. Yes. You could humiliate us. We already have. Dax looked back at her. Holloway's expression softened slightly. Admiral, every commander eventually faces the same question. Is victory the destruction of an enemy, or the removal of a threat? We chose the second. You expect the galaxy to admire you. No. We expect the galaxy to understand us. Dax realized then why Earth demanded the full censor records. A destroyed fleet would become a story. An intact fleet returning home would become evidence. The raw recordings would show every failure. The empty streets. The false signals. The orbital platforms. The precision attacks. The human refusal to kill when killing would have been easier. Every government connected to the VOI network would see the same message. Earth was dangerous. Earth was disciplined. Earth could show mercy without surrendering strength. The combination was far more frightening than simple brutality. Dax signed the agreement. High Speaker Vor refused. Lita arrested him. The former political leader shouted that she had committed treason. Lita looked at him calmly. Treason against conquest may be the beginning of loyalty to something better. Human engineers boarded the disabled ships. They arrived carrying tools, repair drones, medical supplies, translation devices, and food. VOI officers expected sabotage. They found professionalism. Earth technicians restored navigation systems while leaving weapons offline. Doctors treated injured alien soldiers. Human medical teams discovered that VOI blood chemistry reacted badly to several common Earth medicines, then worked with alien physicians to develop safe alternatives. In one troop carrier, human rescuers found hundreds of conscripts from conquered species. Some had never seen their homeworlds. Some did not know whether their families were alive. One soldier refused to leave his bunk when the human team entered. He was a thin, gray-skinned alien named Turin, taken from his planet at the age of 13. A human medic sat on the floor outside his compartment. "You are not being moved without your permission," she said through a translator. Turin stared at her. "You are the enemy." "Yes." "You defeated us." "Yes." "You should own us now." "No." Turin waited for the correction. It never came. "Then what happens?" "You decide whether to return with the fleet, remain here temporarily, or request transport to your world when we can arrange it." "I can choose." "That is generally what deciding means." Turin began to cry. The medic remained seated outside the compartment until he was ready to move. News of the invasion spread across Earth. People celebrated. Some demanded revenge. Cities damaged during the fighting held funerals. Families mourned the dead. Politicians argued about whether Earth had been too generous. Holloway answered them publicly. "We did not spare the VOI because they deserved comfort. We spared them because we deserve to remain ourselves." The statement was repeated across the planet. 6 weeks later, the repaired invasion fleet departed the solar system. Eternal Dominion moved slowly past the moon. Its weapons remained disabled. Earth's orbital platforms tracked every ship until the last vessel entered faster than light space. Lita stayed behind. She had accepted an invitation to serve as diplomatic representative between Earth and the VOI Empire. Before departure, Dax met her aboard the human station Atlas I. "You believe they will change the galaxy," he said. "They already have. They defeated one fleet. They demonstrated restraint after victory." Dax looked toward Earth. "In the Empire, restraint is interpreted as weakness. Then the Empire will misunderstand them twice." Dax almost smiled. "You warned me." "Yes." "I did not listen." "No. You seem to enjoy saying that." "A little." Dax returned home, carrying the full records. High Speaker Vor returned in custody. The Empire attempted to suppress the recordings. Lita had anticipated this. Before Eternal Dominion left Earth, she transmitted copies to 9 neighboring civilizations through old diplomatic relays. Within 3 months, every major government in the region had seen the invasion. 47 ships neutralized in 40 seconds. Ground forces defeated without mass execution. Conquered soldiers offered freedom. A victorious planet demanding sovereignty instead of tribute. The reaction was immediate. The Earth Commonwealth sent a peaceful probe to the edge of the solar system. It stopped outside Earth's defensive boundary. The probe transmitted greetings in 17 languages. It requested permission to approach. Earth granted it. The Earth arrived carrying a complete star atlas as a gift. Their ambassador was a tall, translucent being who communicated through patterns of colored light. At the first diplomatic meeting, it asked Holloway a question. "Why did your species prepare for invasion before confirming extraterrestrial life existed?" Holloway leaned back. "Because we have met ourselves." The ambassador's body flashed uncertain colors. Holloway explained. "Humans know what fear, ambition, greed, and power can do. We hoped first contact would be peaceful. We prepared in case it was not. Do you consider all alien civilizations potential enemies? No, then why build weapons? So that peace can remain a choice instead of a request." The Earth ambassador carried that sentence home. Other civilizations arrived. Some came with trade offers. Some came with scientific knowledge. Some came only to observe. All stopped at the solar system's boundary. All requested permission. Earth had achieved in a single battle what the VOI Empire had failed to achieve in centuries of conquest. Respect without occupation. But the Empire was not finished. High Speaker Vor escaped custody during transport. He gathered loyal military commanders who believed Dax's surrender had humiliated their civilization. They formed the Restoration Fleet. 180 warships joined him. Many were old. Some were experimental. Several carried planet-breaking weapons banned even under VOI law. Vor declared that Earth's victory had been the result of deception, sabotage, and internal betrayal. He promised to erase the defeat. This time, the VOI would not descend into Earth's defensive range. They would destroy the planet from beyond the orbit of Mars. Lita received the warning from sympathetic officers inside the Empire. She entered Holloway's office with the message. The fleet will arrive in 18 days. How many ships? 180. Holloway was silent. Earth's original defensive network could disable 47 ships at close range. It could not stop an armada firing from across the solar system. Humanity had spent the year after first contact studying alien technology. They had learned much. Not enough. Earth had no true faster-than-light fleet. The Earth possessed advanced drives, but almost no military vessels. Other friendly species feared provoking the VOI Empire. Holloway called an emergency council. The debate lasted 9 hours. Some leaders proposed evacuating as many people as possible. Others advocated a preemptive strike on VOI territory. Nadia Osai presented a third option. Atlas was built to defend Earth, she said. We need to stop thinking like a planet. A projection appeared above the table. It showed hundreds of ships scattered across nearby star systems. Earth research vessels, VOI dissident cruisers, human prototypes, civilian transport ships, mining platforms, merchant vessels, conquered world patrol craft. You want to create a fleet, Holloway said. I want to create a network. With ships that have never trained together. With crews that have a reason to. Lita understood first. The Restoration Fleet expects Earth to stand alone. Nadia nodded. So we make sure it does not. Messages were sent across the emerging diplomatic network. Earth did not demand assistance. It transmitted the facts. Vor's fleet intended to destroy a populated world to restore. Imperial pride. Any civilization could remain neutral. Any civilization could help. For 12 hours, no reply came. Then Turin responded. He had returned to his homeworld aboard a human transport. His people possessed only 6 aging patrol ships. They offered all 6. The Earth offered 20 research vessels equipped with powerful energy systems, but no trained combat crews. VOI officers loyal to Lita defected with 11 cruisers. The Reptilian Ven Coalition sent 30 warships and a message consisting of 5 words. We dislike bullies. Coordinates received. Merchant captains volunteered cargo ships. Mining corporations donated industrial cutters. Human engineers transformed orbital construction vessels into missile carriers. Nations that had once competed for control of space combined their resources. The resulting force did not resemble a conventional armada. It contained 103 vessels belonging to 7 species. Some were military ships. Most were not. They used different engines, weapons, languages, command structures, and tactical systems. Admiral Dax returned from retirement to command them. Holloway met him aboard the newly completed human flagship Defiant Horizon. It was the first large warship built with combined human and alien technology. Its hull was pale gray. Its engines were VOI. Its sensor systems were Earth. Its armor had been manufactured on Earth. Its command software had been written by programmers from 4 countries and then corrected by Lita after it attempted to translate the word surrender as seasonal vegetable. Dax stood on the bridge, looking older. You trust me with your fleet? He asked. It is not my fleet, Holloway said. Whose is it? Everyone's. That is not how command works. It will have to. Dax examined the strange formation gathering near Jupiter. This is not a fleet. No, it is a collection of incompatible ships operated by crews who have never fought together. Yes. Several of your vessels are towing mining equipment. Correct. One appears to be a passenger ferry. The captain insisted. Dax looked at Holloway. How do you expect me to win? Holloway pointed toward the approaching Restoration Fleet. They expect us to behave like them. Dax slowly understood. And we will not. The enemy arrived beyond Mars. 180 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in 3 attack columns. At the center flew the Sovereign Wrath, Vor's new command dreadnought. Its main weapon was designed to destabilize a planetary core. One shot could fracture Earth. Vor transmitted a message. People of Earth, your previous victory was a temporary error. Surrender Lita's son, General Holloway, Admiral Dax, and Dr. Nadia Osai. Disable your defenses. Accept permanent Imperial occupation. Refusal will result in planetary termination. Earth responded with a recording of the same soldier from the first invasion. The visor remained down. The hand rose. The same finger extended. This time, the VOI translators understood immediately. Vor ordered the fleet forward. Dax divided the Allied vessels into small groups. No formation contained ships from only one species. Human missile craft flew beside Earth research vessels. VOI cruisers shielded Ven destroyers. Civilian cargo ships carried clouds of autonomous drones. Mining platforms hid inside the radiation storms surrounding Jupiter. The Restoration fleet fired first. Energy beams crossed millions of kilometers. The Allied ships scattered. Several were hit. A human escort vessel named Resolute lost its engines. An Earth ship moved between it and the next attack. The Earth had never fought a war. Its captain knew little about battle, but he knew the human ship contained lives. The Earth vessel absorbed the strike. Its outer hull burned. Its crew remained at their stations. Why did you do that? The human captain asked. The Earth commander replied through pulsing light. Because you would have done it for us. The battle spread across the outer solar system. Vor's fleet maintained disciplined formations. Dax's force refused to provide a stable target. Ships vanished behind moons. Drones projected false engine signatures. Mining lasers fired from unexpected directions. Civilian vessels released clouds of metallic dust that disrupted VOI sensors. Human crews used gravitational fields around Jupiter to accelerate missiles beyond expected speeds. Ven warships attacked with such enthusiasm that Dax repeatedly ordered them not to ram enemy cruisers. The Ven commander expressed disappointment, but complied. For 6 hours, the Allied fleet delayed the Restoration Armada. It could not stop it. Enemy ships continued toward Earth. Sovereign Wrath began charging its planetary weapon. Nadia watched from Atlas Command. Dax cannot reach the dreadnought, an officer said. He is not trying to. The officer looked at her. Then what is he doing? Buying us time. For what? Nadia looked toward the sun. For the fleet, they cannot see. For a year, Earth and the Earth had studied long-range energy transmission. They developed a method of folding light through temporary gravitational corridors. The system could not carry matter. It could carry information and energy. Humanity had built no hidden warships. It had built mirrors. Thousands of reflective drones had been distributed between the Sun and Mars, disguised as scientific instruments, navigation markers, and asteroid survey platforms. When Sovereign Wrath entered the correct position, Atlas activated them. Solar energy moved through the network. One mirror reflected toward another. Then another. The beams converged. Vor's dreadnought shields flared. They held for 3 seconds. Then failed. The focused solar strike cut through the planetary weapon. Sovereign Wrath shook violently. Vor ordered emergency fire. The weapon discharged before it was fully charged. The blast missed Earth. It struck the moon. A portion of the lunar surface erupted into space. Millions watched from Earth as a new crater formed. The moon survived. The psychological shock did not. Human commanders demanded permission to destroy Sovereign Wrath. Holloway refused. Disable it. They just fired a planet killer. Disable it. Dax brought Defiant Horizon through the enemy formation. VOI loyalist ships fired on him. His former officers died trying to stop him. He did not slow down. Lita stood beside him on the bridge. Forward shields are failing, she said. I am aware. 3 cruisers are moving to block us. I see them. We will not reach. Firing range. Lita examined the tactical display. Unless we eject the drive core. Dax turned. That would destroy this ship. Not immediately. How long? Approximately 90 seconds. Dax opened a fleet-wide channel. All crew abandoned the bridge sections. Prepare emergency evacuation. Holloway's voice entered. Dax, what are you doing? What humans do when the plan becomes unreasonable. That is not an answer. I am improvising. Defiant Horizon accelerated. Its drive core ejected behind it and detonated. The explosion did not destroy the flagship. It threw it forward. The vessel crossed the remaining distance like a projectile. It struck Sovereign Wrath along the side. Both ships spun. Armor fractured. Atmosphere escaped. Lita was thrown across the bridge. Dax remained strapped into the command chair. The Allied flagship had no engines and almost no weapons. It had reached the dreadnought. That was enough. Human boarding craft launched from concealed compartments. VOI defectors led them through the damaged hull. They did not attack crew members who surrendered. They moved toward the planetary weapon controls. Vor retreated to the command chamber. He activated internal security systems. Lita reached him first. Her arm was injured. Blood darkened her uniform. Vor stood beside the manual firing console. "You betrayed your species," he said. "No. You brought aliens onto a VOI command ship. You brought a planet-killing weapon into their home system. They humiliated us. They spared us. They made us weak. They gave us a choice." Vor placed one hand on the firing control. "History remembers strength." Lita raised her weapon. "History remembers survivors." Vor pressed the control. Nothing happened. A human engineer had disconnected the power line 30 seconds earlier. Vor stared at the dead console. Lita lowered her weapon. "You are under arrest." The battle ended slowly. Some restoration ships surrendered. Some fled. Others continued firing until their crews removed their commanders. Earth's fleet was damaged. 26 Allied vessels were destroyed. Thousands died. The solar system remained free. Human rescue teams immediately crossed the battlefield. They saved allies. They saved enemies. A Ven destroyer pulled VOI survivors from a burning cruiser. Orth medical ships treated wounded soldiers who had attacked them hours earlier. Turin's small patrol vessel found a damaged restoration escape pod. The officer inside had once commanded the occupation of Turin's homeworld. Turin recognized him. His crew waited. "Do we leave him?" one asked. Turin remembered the human medic sitting outside his compartment. "No," he said. "Open the airlock." Vor stood trial on Earth. The proceedings were broadcast across the VOI Empire. He was not executed. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and required to watch the testimonies of every world harmed by his campaigns. Dax retired again. This time, no one allowed him to remain retired for long. He became the first commander of the Interstellar Defense and Rescue Coalition. Its charter contained one central rule. No fleet would defend only its own species. Lita became Earth's ambassador to the VOI. Nadia directed the construction of humanity's first faster-than-light exploration ships. Holloway refused every political office offered to her. She returned to the Atlas bunker one final time. The command center was being converted into a museum. A technician asked whether the orbital defense network should be deactivated. Holloway looked through the window at the stars. "No. Do you expect another invasion?" "I expect the future." Years passed. Earth joined the wider galactic community. Human ships traveled beyond the solar system. They carried scientists, traders, diplomats, soldiers, farmers, artists, doctors, and people who simply wanted to see what existed beyond the night sky. The first human exploration fleet consisted of 9 vessels. Its flagship was named Open Hand. The second was named Closed Fist. Alien diplomats considered the naming choice confusing. Humans considered it clear. Earth helped free species conquered by the old VOI expansion program. Human engineers built defensive systems on vulnerable worlds. VOI officers taught navigation. Orth scientists developed peaceful energy technologies. Ven warriors discovered human competitive sports and became unbearable. Former enemies ate together, argued together, and built ships together. The galaxy did not become perfect. There were wars. There were dictators. There were pirates, raiders, and empires that believed kindness was weakness. But every aggressive power remembered the recordings of Earth. A primitive world with no interstellar fleet had neutralized 47 warships without destroying them. Then it had built an alliance from strangers and defeated a larger armada. Not through superior technology. Through preparation, adaptation, courage, and the dangerous human belief that an enemy did not have to remain an enemy forever. 30 years after the first invasion, Holloway stood on a hill outside the Atlas Museum. She was older. Her hair had turned gray. A group of human and alien children ran through the grass behind her. Lita joined her. The former sub-commander wore no military uniform. "Another fleet has entered the outer system," Lita said. "Hostile?" "No, how many ships?" 200. Holloway raised an eyebrow. That is a large diplomatic visit. They are refugees. From where? A region beyond the VOI frontier. Their worlds were attacked by something they cannot identify. Holloway looked toward the sky. Are they requesting asylum? Yes. Let them in. Their ships are damaged. Some may contain weapons. Then we inspect them. The population is estimated at 4 million. Then we start building shelters. Lita studied her. You did not hesitate. We spent 11 years preparing for someone to come from the stars. You prepared for invaders. Holloway watched the refugee fleet appear as faint lights above the horizon. No, she said. We prepared to decide who we would be when they arrived. Earth welcomed the refugees. Their species called themselves the Kesh. Their home systems had been consumed by autonomous war machines older than the VOI Empire. The machines were moving toward inhabited space. The coalition prepared its fleets. Humanity now possessed cruisers, carriers, defense stations, and faster-than-light vessels. Yet Holloway insisted that the first mission would not be an attack. Nadia sent probes. Lita opened communication channels. Dax organized evacuation routes. The Kesh shared everything they knew. The machines reached the edge of coalition space 1 year later. They transmitted no demands. They recognized no borders. They moved toward living worlds with absolute mechanical purpose. The combined fleet assembled around an uninhabited star system. Thousands of ships from dozens of species. At the center flew open hand and closed fist. The machines arrived. The battle that followed became the largest in recorded history. Stars reflected from shields. Warships burned. Human destroyers protected alien civilian transports. VOI cruisers defended Earth carriers. Orth vessels transformed solar radiation into weapons. Ven boarding teams entered machine ships and shouted battle songs loud enough to interfere with their own radios. The coalition could not destroy the entire machine swarm. Nadia discovered why. The machines were not conquerors. They were running. Something beyond them had corrupted their central intelligence and forced them to consume resources continuously. Buried inside their transmissions was a repeating distress signal. Most species dismissed it as system noise. Humans recognized it. It resembled a heartbeat. Holloway, now too old to command from a ship, watched from Earth. Can we separate the machines from the controlling signal? She asked. Nadia answered. Possibly. How? We would have to enter the center of the swarm. Who can do that? Dax's voice entered the channel. A fleet that has practiced unreasonable plans. Open Hand led the charge. Closed Fist followed. Coalition ships formed a moving corridor through the machine formation. Hundreds were damaged. Dozens were lost. Human and alien crews held the passage open. Nadia's vessel reached the swarm's central intelligence. She transmitted a counter signal based on the original VOI probe technology. The machine fleet stopped. Millions of vessels drifted. Their weapons powered down. A single voice crossed every coalition channel. We are aware. Nadia answered. Can you control yourselves? Not completely. Do you want help? The machines remained silent for 18 seconds. Yes. The coalition did not destroy them. They helped. The source of the corruption was isolated. Individual machine minds were freed. Some chose to shut down. Some asked to be judged for the civilizations they had destroyed. Some became explorers. Some became protectors. The galaxy changed again. Humanity's greatest victories were no longer measured by the number of enemy vessels destroyed. They were measured by the moments when destruction had been possible and another choice had been made. Centuries later, the original VOI probe rested inside a museum beside the North Sea. Its display included a photograph of the fisherman who found it. He stood beside a much larger boat purchased with the reward money he eventually accepted. The plaque beneath the probe contained no grand military declaration. It carried one sentence. Someone came to conquer Earth, and humanity taught the stars how to knock first. Children from many worlds visited the museum. They learned about Admiral Dax, who lost a fleet and found humility. They learned about Lita, who chose truth over obedience. They learned about Nadia, who turned a broken probe into a planetary defense. They learned about Holloway, who prepared for war and chose mercy. They learned that strength could protect without enslaving. That caution could exist without hatred. That humans and aliens were capable of fear, cruelty, courage, and change. Above the museum, ships crossed the sky. Human ships. VOI ships. Orth vessels glowing with colored light. then cruisers flying too fast, machine explorers carrying archives of forgotten worlds. No fleet ruled the others. No single species claimed the stars. The old empires had believed that peace came when every enemy was defeated. Earth taught the galaxy something different. Peace began when enough people refused to create another enemy. The universe remained vast. Danger remained real. Unknown fleets still moved beyond explored space. But wherever frightened worlds saw unfamiliar ships approaching, they no longer prepared only for conquest. They opened communication channels. They asked questions. They waited for answers. And when the darkness looked toward Earth, it did not see a weak, blue planet. It saw a world surrounded by allies. A world protected by humans and aliens who had once faced one another across loaded weapons. A world that had learned the difference between being harmless and being peaceful. Earth was not harmless. It never had been. It was peaceful because it possessed the strength to choose peace. And across the stars, that choice became the most powerful weapon humanity ever built. Dr. Sarah Chin did not see the sky change. At first, she noticed only that the birds had stopped singing. The mountain trail climbed through a corridor of pine and stone, twisting toward a ridge that overlooked miles of untouched wilderness. Sarah had run this route dozens of times. She knew where the shadows usually fell, where the wind pressed hardest against the exposed slope, where the stream crossed beneath the old wooden bridge. But that morning, the world felt wrong. Her watch had lost connection to every satellite at once. The emergency beacon in her running vest blinked without receiving a signal. Even the sunlight seemed strangely pale. Sarah slowed from a run to a cautious walk. Then a shape descended silently between the trees. It was no helicopter. It had no wings, no visible rotors, no exhaust, and no sound except a faint vibration she felt through the soles of her shoes. The craft was dark silver, narrow and angular, with blue lines glowing beneath its surface like veins of frozen lightning. It stopped 30 meters ahead of her. Dust rose from the trail. Sarah's pulse increased, but she did not run. Running from something that could descend from space seemed pointless. A seam opened in the craft. Commander Vexith stepped out. She was taller than Sarah, covered in dark green scales that reflected the morning light. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Galactic Survey Fleet, though Sarah had no way to know that. Her eyes were golden, intelligent, and visibly worried. Vexith raised both hands. "Dr. Sarah Chin," she said in precise English, "I mean you no harm." Sarah stared at her. Then she glanced at the spacecraft. Then back at Vexith. "I'm either hallucinating from dehydration," Sarah said, "or this is going to be a very complicated morning." Vexith did not smile. That frightened Sarah more than the alien appearance. "You are not hallucinating," Vexith replied. "And your world is in immediate danger." The mountain trembled. Far above them, something crossed the atmosphere. Sarah looked up. A line of white fire burned across the blue sky, followed by another, then 20 more. They were not meteors. They were ships. Human ships. Long, armored vessels climbed from hidden silos beneath the Rocky Mountains. Others emerged from concealed orbital docks beyond the clouds. Their engines turned the morning sky into a web of brilliant blue trails. Sarah's breath caught. What is happening? Vexith looked toward the heavens. Humanity has activated a military fleet larger than many interstellar civilizations possess. Sarah slowly turned toward her. "We have what?" A holographic display appeared above Vexith's wrist. It showed the solar system. Earth was surrounded by blue points. Beyond Neptune waited an ocean of red. "The red vessels belong to the Dominion," Vexith said. "They have conquered thousands of worlds. Their fleet is approaching Earth." Sarah stared at the numbers. There were too many red symbols to count. "How long do we have?" 37 hours before their main formation enters weapons range. Sarah's training as an emergency physician took control. Fear could come later. "What do you need from me?" Vexith studied her face. "I need you to meet the people who built your hidden fleet." Sarah almost laughed. "You think I know them?" "No, then why me?" "Because the Galactic Council has observed your species for months. We believed your defining trait was physical endurance. We were wrong." Sarah looked again at the hologram. "What did you discover?" "That your endurance is not merely biological. It is moral." Vexith stepped closer. "Your fleet has already opened secret communication with ours. Your leaders refused to surrender, but they also refuse to launch weapons that may destroy inhabited Dominion vessels. They believe millions of conscripted soldiers may be trapped aboard those ships. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. So the people invading us might also be prisoners. Yes. And our leaders want a doctor to help decide what to do. Not merely a doctor. Vexith looked at Sarah's dusty shoes, her running vest, the sweat on her face. They want someone who understands why humans continue when stopping would be easier. Sarah stared at the sky. More human vessels rose through the atmosphere, vast and silent, their hulls reflecting the sun. How do we get there? Vexith gestured toward the shuttle. We run out of time if we remain here. Sarah followed her aboard. The door sealed. The craft rose so smoothly that Sarah barely felt the movement. The trees fell away beneath them. The mountains became ridges. The ridges became wrinkles on the surface of a living world. Then the sky turned black. Sarah had imagined space since childhood, but imagination had failed completely. Earth filled half the viewing window, blue and white and breathtakingly vulnerable. Around it moved a civilization she had never known existed. Human cruisers emerged from orbit. Gigantic carriers detached from hidden stations disguised as industrial satellites. Lunar shipyards opened beneath armored craters. From the far side of the moon came battleships so large they cast shadows across the surface. The closest vessel carried a name across its hull. UNS Indomitable. Sarah looked at Vexith. How long has this been happening? Your species began building the first hidden orbital defense platforms after detecting unexplained signals 78 years ago. 78 years? Your governments disagreed about almost everything. Yet they agreed that the discovery of extraterrestrial life could not be allowed to become the discovery of an undefended Earth. Sarah watched thousands of ships assemble. Why keep it secret? Your leaders feared what humanity might become if the existence of an external enemy were used to justify permanent control. Sarah absorbed that. Humanity had built the greatest secret in history, then hidden it from itself. The shuttle approached a colossal flagship in high orbit. Its hull was angular and dark, armored with layered plates and surrounded by dozens of escort ships. The name on its side. Read UNS Marathon. Sarah almost smiled. Of course they called it that. Vexith glanced at her. Is the name significant? A marathon is a race humans voluntarily run for 42 kilometers. I know. Then you know it's perfect. The shuttle entered a hangar large enough to contain several city blocks. Inside waited human soldiers, engineers, medical teams, and a small delegation of alien officers. Sarah stepped onto the deck, still wearing her running clothes. A gray-haired woman in a dark blue uniform approached. Dr. Chin. Admiral Elena Ward. Sarah looked around. I assumed there wasn't time for me to shower. The Admiral extended her hand. No, Doctor. There wasn't. They shook hands. Behind Admiral Ward stood a tall black man wearing a flight uniform. His name patch read Webb. This is Commander Marcus Webb, the Admiral said. He commands the Marathon's primary fighter wing. Marcus looked at Sarah's trail shoes. They pulled you straight off a mountain? Yes. Then you're having a stranger day than the rest of us. A deep vibration passed through the ship. The hangar lights shifted from white to red. A voice sounded overhead. Dominion reconnaissance wave detected inside Uranus orbit. Estimated contact in 16 minutes. Admiral Ward turned immediately. Walk with me. They moved through corridors crowded with personnel. No one panicked. No one shouted. Every person moved with the focused urgency of a hospital during a mass casualty event. Sarah recognized the atmosphere. It was fear under discipline. They entered a command chamber built around a spherical tactical display. Earth glowed at the center. The human fleet formed layered defensive rings around it. A smaller group of blue-green symbols represented Vexith's reconnaissance ships. The Dominion filled the outer system like a spreading infection. Admiral Ward faced Sarah. The Dominion fleet is controlled through a central command network. Every ship is connected to a hierarchy of command vessels. Can you disable it? We can destroy it, Marcus said. That's the problem. The display magnified a group of Dominion carriers. Interior scans appeared. Millions of life signs. Families. Workers. Children. Sarah turned sharply. Children are aboard warships? Vexith answered. The Dominion does not distinguish between military and civilian populations. Entire conquered communities are forced to live within mobile fleets. Their families become hostages to obedience. Admiral Ward expanded the view. Their central command system regulates life support. If we destroy the command ships, thousands of vessels may fail simultaneously. How many people? Possibly 900 million. Sarah went silent. Marcus folded his arms. If we do nothing, they bombard Earth. If we attack conventionally, we may kill nearly 1 billion enslaved civilians. If we surrender, humanity becomes another Dominion labor population. Sarah looked at the tactical display. And you think I can find another option? No, Admiral Ward said. We think you can help us choose which impossible option we are willing to live with. The room shook again, this time more violently. A warning flashed across the display. The first Dominion reconnaissance wave had entered firing range early. Enemy weapons charging. An officer called. Raise shields, Ward ordered. Outside the hull, space erupted. Crimson beams struck the Marathon's defensive field. Blue light spread across the viewing ports as energy shields absorbed the impact. Human interceptors launched from nearby carriers. Marcus turned toward the exit. That's my call. Sarah caught his arm. Commander. He looked at her. Those pilots out there. Do they know there may be civilians aboard the ships they're attacking? They know. And they're still going? Marcus glanced toward the tactical display. They're going because civilians are also behind us. Then he ran. The battle began over Uranus. Dominion scouts entered in tightly packed formations, expecting primitive resistance. Instead, they met human fighters accelerating at forces that would have rendered most Galactic Council species unconscious. Human pilots attacked from every direction. They did not match Dominion technology. They did not need to. They used momentum, geometry, coordinated deception, and tactics refined through centuries of wars humans had fought against one another. Dominion commanders expected the defenders to protect their ships. Humans used ships as shields for one another. They expected damaged fighters to retreat. Human pilots continued fighting with half their systems gone. They expected command formations to collapse when officers were killed. Human units simply transferred authority and continued. Marcus Webb led the first attack wave directly through the Dominion center. His fighters shook violently as crimson beams cut across the formation. Break left, he shouted. 16 human fighters scattered. The Dominion line adjusted to follow them. That was the mistake. From above the planetary rings, 40 unmanned human drones descended in silence. They released electromagnetic mines into the reconnaissance formation. The explosion did not destroy the Dominion ships. It blinded them. Marcus turned his wing around. Disable engines only. Repeat, engines only. Blue-white missiles struck propulsion systems, communication arrays, and weapon turrets. Within minutes, the Dominion scouts drifted powerless. No ships were destroyed. Human boarding craft launched. Marines crossed the void. When they entered the first captured vessel, they expected soldiers. They found starving workers chained to control stations. They found children in maintenance compartments. They found Dominion officers fitted with neural punishment devices. The first captured commander collapsed at the sight of the human Marines. Please, he whispered through the translator. Do not send us back. The message reached Admiral Ward 12 minutes later. Sarah watched the recording twice. Then she turned to Vexith. The network doesn't just control ships. No, Vexith said. It controls people. Sarah studied the neural devices visible in the recording. Can they be removed? Not safely at scale. The implants are connected to central command signals. If disconnected incorrectly, they destroy the host's nervous system. Admiral Ward's expression hardened. Then we need the source code, which is stored inside the Dominion Command Citadel, Vexith said. The display shifted toward the largest red symbol in the enemy fleet. The Dominion flagship was nearly 50 kilometers long. It was less a spacecraft than a mobile world. Its armor could withstand sustained planetary bombardment. Its interior housed millions. At its center rested the Central Command intelligence that controlled every enslaved mind and vessel. Marcus's voice came over the comm, then we take it. Admiral Ward answered. That ship has enough firepower to erase continents. Marcus replied without hesitation. So we don't attack the continents. Sarah looked at Ward. You're considering boarding it. We built our fleet for exactly this kind of possibility. No, Sarah said. You built your fleet to defend Earth. Ward met her eyes. Today those may be the same thing. The Dominion sent its first message 1 hour later. Every human communication channel was overridden. Televisions, phones, radios, aircraft systems, emergency networks, and military frequencies displayed the same figure. The Dominion sovereign sat upon a black metal throne. He was massive, armored, and surrounded by hanging banners made from the symbols of conquered worlds. His voice entered every language simultaneously. People of Earth, your concealed fleet has been noted. Across the planet, humanity watched. You possess greater military capability than projected. This changes nothing. The image shifted. 47 conquered worlds appeared. Some were burning. Others were empty. Resistance will result in extinction. Surrender will preserve a portion of your population for productive service. The sovereign leaned forward. You have 6 hours. The transmission ended. For 5 seconds, Earth was silent. Then humanity responded. Not through governments. Through people. Messages flooded every network. Musicians played in public squares. Families opened emergency shelters. Doctors reported to hospitals. Firefighters moved into threatened cities. Pilots volunteered for transport duty. Engineers entered underground command centers. Millions lined up to donate blood. Factories began producing medical supplies. No one knew whether Earth would exist the next morning. They worked anyway. Sarah stood inside the marathon's medical bay, watching live feeds from across the planet. A child in Nairobi painted a blue Earth on a piece of cardboard. A group of elderly women in Seoul prepared food for emergency workers. Miners in Chile entered defense tunnels. Astronauts aboard civilian stations volunteered to guide evacuation craft. In New York, thousands gathered in the streets. They did not riot. They sang. Vexith watched with Sarah. Your people are afraid, she said. Of course they are. But they continue. That's what people do when others depend on them. Vexith's neck ridges lowered slowly. Among her species, fear meant withdrawal. Among humans, fear often became movement. The Dominion expected 6 hours of panic. Instead, Earth spent 6 hours preparing. At the end of that time, Admiral Ward sent humanity's response. The message contained no threats, no insults, no display of weapons, only her face. Sovereign of the Dominion, she said, humanity refuses your terms. The sovereign appeared immediately. Then humanity chooses extinction. Ward shook her head. No, humanity chooses resistance. You cannot defeat us. Perhaps not. The Admiral's eyes remained calm. But you misunderstand us. The sovereign's expression did not change. Ward continued. You believe victory belongs to whoever inflicts the most suffering. We believe victory belongs to whoever refuses to become what they are fighting. She leaned toward the camera. We know your crews are enslaved. We know their families are hostages. We will not murder them to reach you. For the first time, something moved behind the sovereign's eyes. Concern. We are coming for your command network, Ward said. We are coming for every prisoner aboard your fleet. And when this is over, even your soldiers will be given the chance to live free. The transmission ended. The Dominion opened fire. Thousands of ships accelerated toward the inner system. The largest battle in human history began. Space around Saturn became a storm of light. Dominion dreadnoughts fired crimson energy lances toward human defensive lines. Human carriers released fighter swarms so dense they looked like silver clouds moving between the stars. The Marathon led the central formation. Its engines burned bright enough to be seen from Earth. Admiral Ward stood at the center of the command chamber. Forward shields to maximum. Enemy siege platforms locking onto Mars. Redirect Lunar Group 7. Jovian fleet reports heavy losses. Tell them to hold. The human fleet bent. It did not break. At Jupiter, cargo vessels converted into missile platforms emerged from beneath the gas giant's radiation belts. Near Mars, mining ships dragged asteroids into Dominion firing lanes. Around Earth, civilian satellites formed a massive communication web, replacing military relays as quickly as the Dominion destroyed them. Every time the invaders adapted, humans changed tactics. Every time a defensive line failed, another formed behind it. Every time a ship was crippled, rescue craft entered the battle before the wreckage had stopped glowing. Dominion commanders could not understand it. Human vessels repeatedly abandoned advantageous positions to save strangers. Fighters shielded alien ships they had met only hours before. Medical carriers crossed active weapons fire to retrieve enemy survivors. These actions seemed strategically irrational. Yet every rescued crew returned to the battle. Every saved Dominion prisoner provided information. Every act of mercy weakened the invaders' control. Vexith's 12 reconnaissance frigates entered combat beside humanity. Then 30 Galactic Council ships arrived. Then 200. The Council had not authorized intervention. Their captains came anyway. They had watched Earth's response. They had seen human boarding teams risk their lives to save Dominion prisoners. For the first time in centuries, comfortable civilizations chose danger. A Path medical cruiser transmitted a simple message. Earth does not stand alone. The message spread. From one star system to another, ships changed course. Merchants, explorers, scientists, retired warships, private rescue craft, species that had avoided conflict for thousands of years entered hyperspace. Not because they believed humanity would win, because humanity had reminded them what courage looked like. The Dominion advanced toward Earth, but the galaxy began moving behind it. Sarah worked in the marathons. Medical bay as casualties arrived faster than beds could be prepared. Human pilots, alien officers, Dominion prisoners. No distinction was made. A wounded Dominion soldier stared at Sarah while she sealed a burn across his chest. Why? He asked through a translator. Why what? Why heal me? Sarah continued working. Because you're hurt. I fired upon your ships. Then we'll discuss that after you survive. The soldier's eyes filled with confusion. In the Dominion, mercy is weakness. Sarah looked directly at him. No, mercy is expensive. That's why weak people rarely practice it. The soldier stared at her. Later, when he was strong enough to speak, he gave Admiral Ward the location of a hidden maintenance corridor inside the Dominion Citadel. It was the first opening they had received. The plan formed quickly. The Marathon and its escort fleet would attack the Citadel directly, drawing its defenses forward. Marcus Webb's fighter wing would guide boarding ships through the maintenance corridor. Vexith would lead a Galactic Council technical team toward the central network chamber. Sarah would accompany them. Admiral Ward objected immediately. You are a civilian. I'm also a neurologist with emergency surgical experience. You're an emergency physician. I completed a neurological trauma fellowship. Ward narrowed her eyes. You left that out. You didn't ask for my resume. Vexith stepped forward. The central implants may require biological interpretation. Dr. Chin is the best available candidate. Ward looked from Vexith to Sarah. You understand that this is probably a one-way mission. Sarah glanced at the tactical display. Earth glowed behind the battle. There are billions of one-way missions happening down there right now. Ward remained silent. Sarah continued. Every firefighter entering a collapsed building. Every nurse staying in an evacuation hospital. Every pilot flying a damaged ship back into battle. None of them know they're coming home. That doesn't mean you have to join them. No, Sarah said. It means I don't get to ask others to take risks I refuse to take myself. Admiral Ward closed her eyes for a moment. Then she nodded. Prepare for boarding. The assault began near the orbit of Mars. The Dominion Citadel moved at the center of a fortress formation surrounded by 12 dreadnoughts and hundreds of cruisers. The Marathon accelerated directly toward it. Every enemy weapon turned. Now, Ward ordered. Human battleships separated into 3 groups. The first attacked from above. The second vanished behind clouds of decoy drones. The third shut down their engines entirely and drifted beneath the enemy formation, hidden among wreckage. The Dominion fired at the obvious targets. Marcus Webb's fighters emerged from the darkness below. Boarding group, follow me. 6 armored transport craft accelerated behind him. Sarah sat strapped inside the lead vessel beside Vexith and 20 human marines. The transport shook so violently that her teeth hurt. Crimson fire crossed the forward screen. 1 escort fighter vanished. Then another. Marcus's voice remained steady. 10 seconds to corridor. A Dominion cruiser turned toward them. Its weapons charged. Marcus changed direction. His fighter crossed directly in front of the cruiser's guns. Webb, Sarah shouted. He fired every remaining missile into the cruiser's sensors. The enemy ship fired blindly. The beam missed the boarding craft by meters. Marcus's fighter spun away trailing smoke. Still here, he said. Keep moving. The maintenance corridor appeared ahead. It was barely wider than the transport. Brace. The craft struck the Citadel. Explosive clamps locked onto the hull. Human marines cut through the outer plating. The first soldier entered. Weapons fire erupted inside. Sarah followed Vexith through smoke, flashing lights, and narrow metal passages. The Citadel's interior was not the palace of a great empire. It was a prison. Workers were chained to machinery. Soldiers wore explosive collars. Children hid beneath control platforms. Human Marines advanced slowly, refusing to fire when civilians crossed their path. That restraint cost them. Dominion security troops attacked from elevated walkways. 2 Marines fell. A third continued forward despite a wound in his leg. "Why aren't they stopping?" a Dominion officer shouted. The human Marine fired at the officer's weapon, destroying it without killing him. "Because you haven't met humans before." The team reached the first security barrier. Vexith connected a device to the control panel. "This will take 4 minutes." "We don't have 4 minutes," the Marine commander said. The corridor behind them filled with enemy troops. Sarah examined the wall. A narrow service passage ran above the door. "Can we crawl through?" "It leads into coolant circulation," Vexith said. "Temperatures exceed 45 degrees Celsius." The alien technicians recoiled. Sarah looked at the human Marines. They looked back at her. 45 degrees was dangerous. It was not impossible. "We go through," Sarah said. Vexith stared at her. "You may survive. My people cannot." Then the humans go ahead and open the barrier from the other side. The service passage was hot enough to burn exposed skin. Sarah crawled behind 6 Marines as alarms screamed below them. Every breath felt thick. Sweat soaked her clothing. The metal beneath her hands grew hotter with every meter. One Marine began to slow. Sarah pushed his boot. "Keep moving." "I'm trying." "Try louder." He laughed despite himself and continued. They reached the far side. Sarah dropped into the control room with trembling arms. The Marines disabled the guards. The barrier opened. Vexith entered and stared at the humans. Their body temperatures were dangerously elevated. Their uniforms were soaked, yet they remained standing. "This," she whispered, "is what we saw in the runners." Sarah took a breath. "No." She pointed down the corridor toward the central chamber. "This is what the running prepared us for." They continued. The sovereign watched their progress from his throne. For the first time in centuries, he felt something he had forced from countless civilizations. Helplessness. His commanders reported that conquered crews were refusing orders. Dominion vessels were lowering weapons. Some were turning against loyalist ships. Human rescue broadcasts reached every channel. "Surrender, and you will receive medical aid. Protect civilians, and you will be protected. Disable your command systems, and we will help you. Remove the implants." The sovereign ordered executions. That accelerated the rebellion. A cruiser captain transmitted his refusal openly. "We were told humans were monsters." He turned his weapons toward a Dominion command ship. "Monsters do not rescue the children of their enemies." More ships followed. The Dominion formation began to fracture. The sovereign activated the final protocol. At the heart of the Citadel, the Central Intelligence began overloading every neural implant in the fleet. 900 million people screamed simultaneously. Sarah heard the sound through the chamber walls. Not with her ears. Through the network. Vexith collapsed beside her. "The implants are activating." "How long?" "Minutes." They reached the central chamber. It was immense. Thousands of black cables descended toward a sphere of crimson light suspended above a deep shaft. The Dominion Central Intelligence spoke. "Biological rebellion detected." Sarah approached the control platform. "Can you shut it down?" Vexith struggled to her feet. "Not without triggering the implants." The intelligence continued. "Compliance will be restored through neurological termination." Sarah looked at the streams of biological data. Millions of nervous systems. Different species. Different physiologies. All connected through one command architecture. She saw the problem. The implants did not merely receive orders. They anticipated resistance by measuring fear, pain, anger, and intention. The Dominion had created a system that punished the desire for freedom before rebellion could begin. Sarah stared at the data. Then she remembered the mountain. The long hours of pain. The body screaming to stop. The mind deciding whether the signal meant danger or merely difficulty. "Vexith," she said, "the system interprets stress as resistance." "Yes. What if we give it more resistance than it can process?" Vexith looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Every network has a limit." Sarah connected a human medical interface to the platform. If millions of people resist at once, the system attacks them. But what happens if billions resist? There are not billions of implants. I'm not talking about implants. Sarah opened a channel to the marathon. Admiral Ward, connect Earth's civilian networks to this signal. Ward's voice answered through static. Explain. The system monitors biological stress patterns. Feed it ours. Bexith understood. You want to overwhelm the Dominion intelligence with human neurological data. Every runner, every soldier, every patient enduring pain, every person afraid but continuing anyway. Ward was silent for 2 seconds. Then she gave the order. Earth connected. Hospitals transmitted heart rhythms. Athletic networks transmitted biometric records. Military systems transmitted battlefield stress data. Emergency services added millions of signals. Then civilians volunteered. People placed hands on medical scanners. Smart watches linked to the network. Fitness monitors. Neural research databases. Every available record of human endurance entered the Dominion intelligence at once. The system processed fear, pain, exhaustion, grief, trauma, and continuation. A firefighter carrying a child through smoke. A mother remaining awake beside a sick infant. A runner finishing a race after collapsing twice. A surgeon operating for 20 hours. A prisoner surviving years without surrendering hope. A rescue worker digging through rubble with bleeding hands. A child learning to walk again after injury. Billions of lives. Billions of moments when stopping would have been understandable. Billions of decisions to continue. The Dominion intelligence tried to classify the signals as rebellion. There were too many. It tried to trigger punishment responses. The data did not belong to implanted hosts. It tried to isolate fear from obedience. Human fear did not correlate with surrender. It tried to measure pain as failure. Humans repeatedly continued through pain. It tried to identify the threshold where biological beings stopped. The threshold kept moving. The central sphere flickered. Contradiction, the intelligence said. Sarah increased the feed. Biological organisms cannot continue under sustained distress. Sarah whispered, "Watch us." The intelligence began to collapse. Across the Dominion fleet, neural implants shut down. Soldiers fell to their knees. Workers tore control collars from their necks. Commanders realized that no punishment came. For the first time in their lives, millions received an order and chose not to obey. The citadel shook violently. The sovereign entered the central chamber, surrounded by armored guards. He saw Sarah standing at the platform. One unarmed human doctor. Sweating. Bleeding from one hand. Still working. "You," he said. Sarah turned. "You are the human who destroyed my dominion?" "No." Behind the sovereign, his guards lowered their weapons. Sarah looked at them. They did. The sovereign turned slowly. His own soldiers stepped away from him. "You belong to me." One guard removed his helmet. "No," he said. "We were only afraid of you." The sovereign drew a weapon. Marcus Webb's voice sounded from the entrance. "That's far enough." He stood in the doorway with a damaged flight suit and a burn across one side of his face. His fighter had crashed inside the Citadel hangar, but he had continued on foot. The sovereign aimed at Sarah. Marcus aimed at the sovereign. For one breath, the entire war balanced between them. Sarah stepped in front of Marcus's weapon. "Don't kill him." Marcus stared at her. "He was about to kill you." "I know. He enslaved billions." "I know." The sovereign laughed bitterly. "Mercy. Even now." Sarah faced him. "No. Justice." She looked toward the former Dominion guards. "He lives. He stands trial before every civilization he harmed. He hears every name. He sees every world. He spends the rest of his life knowing that the people he called weak survived him." The sovereign's weapon fell from his hand. The guards took him into custody. Outside, the battle stopped. Not all at once. One ship lowered its weapons. Then 10. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The red symbols across the tactical display turned white as freed crews transmitted surrender codes. Dominion loyalists attempted to flee. Human ships surrounded them. They expected destruction. Instead, Admiral Ward offered terms. Disarm. Release prisoners. Accept trial for crimes. No reprisals against families. No collective punishment. Many surrendered. Some refused. The final loyalist dreadnought accelerated toward Earth, intending to detonate its core inside the atmosphere. The Marathon was too damaged to intercept. Human fighters had exhausted their weapons. The ship crossed Mars orbit. Then the Galactic Council fleet arrived. Not 30 ships. Not 200. More than 12,000 vessels emerged from hyperspace. Civilizations that had forgotten courage now formed a wall between Earth and destruction. Vexith's people led them. The dreadnought fired. The council ships combined their shields. The blast spread across space like a second sun. Thousands of vessels shook. Hundreds lost power. But the wall held. Earth remained untouched. On the bridge of the Marathon, Admiral Ward watched the final hostile symbol disappear. No one celebrated immediately. They were too tired, too shocked, too aware of how close everything had come to ending. Then a communication officer began to cry. Another person laughed. Someone applauded once. The sound spread. Across the ship, humans and aliens embraced. Pilots climbed from damaged fighters. Medical teams carried survivors from both fleets. Dominion workers opened sealed compartments and saw stars without permission for the first time. Children stepped into hangars where human soldiers offered food instead of chains. Sarah returned to Earth 3 days later. She landed in the same mountain range where Vexith had found her. The world below had changed forever. Alien ships were visible in the daytime sky. Dominion vessels, now renamed Liberation transports, carried former prisoners towards safe worlds. Human engineers worked beside alien scientists to remove neural implants. Galactic Council representatives gathered in Geneva, Nairobi, Brasilia, Delhi, and lunar orbit. The secret human fleet was no longer secret. Neither was humanity. Sarah stood on the mountain trail again. Vexith stood beside her. The commander watched a group of runners pass along the path. They know the galaxy nearly ended here, Vexith said. Yet they are running. Sarah smiled. It's Saturday. I do not understand why that explains anything. It doesn't. Vexith watched an elderly man moving slowly behind the others. His breathing was heavy. His steps were uneven. But he continued. The Galactic Council has requested that humanity become a founding member of a new alliance, Vexith said. Not merely a member species. A guiding civilization. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. They believe your species restored something the galaxy had lost. What? The willingness to attempt difficult things even when success is uncertain. Sarah looked toward the sky. A human medical ship crossed above them, escorted by 2 former Dominion cruisers. Make sure they don't start worshipping us, she said. Why? Because we're still human. We'll make mistakes. Vexith considered that. And when you do? Sarah began walking uphill. We admit them, fix what we can, and keep going. In the months that followed, the Dominion dissolved. Its conquered worlds did not become human colonies. Earth refused every offer of territory. Instead, humanity helped create the Free Worlds Coalition, a defensive alliance founded on 3 principles. No civilization would own another. No child would inherit the guilt of a government. No world would stand alone against conquest. Former Dominion soldiers became rescue pilots. Human warships carried food and medicine. Alien scientists taught Earth how to cross interstellar distances safely. Earth doctors shared trauma care with species that had never developed emergency medicine because they had relied too heavily on automated systems. Humans learned from older civilizations. Older civilizations learned how to begin striving again. Commander Marcus Webb became the first leader of the Coalition Rescue Fleet. His flagship was not a battleship. It was a converted Dominion carrier named Second Chance. Admiral Elena Ward became the first chair of the Free Worlds Defense Council. She refused the title of Supreme Commander. No one should be supreme for long, she said. Commander Vexith became Earth's first permanent alien ambassador. She developed an unexpected interest in hiking, but continued to describe running as an irrational human ritual. Dr. Sarah Chin returned to medicine. For a while, governments tried to turn her into a symbol. She refused most speeches. She refused political office. She refused to have a fleet named after her. But she accepted one request. 5 years after the invasion, Sarah stood at the starting line of the first interstellar marathon on Mars. Humans ran beside aliens wearing cooling suits, gravity supports, mechanical braces, and medical monitors. Some species could manage only a few hundred meters. Others walked. No one was excluded. The course passed beneath a memorial made from the armor of the Dominion Citadel. It contained no statues of generals. Instead, its surface carried the names of every known person who had resisted the Dominion. Soldiers, workers, children, doctors, prisoners, pilots, people from thousands of worlds. At the starting line, Vexith stood beside Sarah in a specially designed thermal suit. "You understand," Vexith said, "that my species is biologically unsuited to this activity." "Yes. My physician strongly recommended against participation." "Yes. I may complete only 1 kilometer." Sarah smiled. "Then we'll do 1 kilometer. You intended to run the full distance. I can run another marathon later." Vexith looked at her. "You would abandon your goal for me?" "That's not abandoning the goal." "What is it?" Sarah looked around at thousands of beings preparing to move together beneath the pale Martian sky. "It's choosing a better one." The signal sounded. They began. Some ran quickly. Some moved slowly. Some required machines. Some stumbled. Every time someone fell, others stopped. Every time someone struggled, someone remained beside them. Vexith reached 1 kilometer and nearly collapsed. Sarah supported her. The crowd cheered. Not because she had traveled far, because she had continued farther than she believed she could. Years later, historians would argue about the moment the galaxy truly changed. Some said it was when humanity's hidden fleet awakened. Others said it was when Earth refused to surrender. Military scholars pointed to the capture of the Dominion Citadel. Scientists pointed to the collapse of the neural control network. But those who had been there understood something simpler. The galaxy changed when one civilization looked at the suffering of its enemies and refused to use that suffering as an excuse for cruelty. Humanity did not save the galaxy because humans were stronger. They were not. They did not save it because their ships were superior. They were not. They saved it because they could endure fear without surrendering compassion. They could suffer without worshiping suffering. They could fight without forgetting why peace mattered. And when the road ahead became long, painful, uncertain, and almost impossible, they did what humanity had always done. They took another step, then another, then one more, until the darkness finally ended. Thank you sincerely for staying with this story until the very end, and I hope its message of courage, compassion, and unity remains with you. Please click https://www